Okay, so I'm going to talk about dealing with rude customers in sales. And I'm going to talk about this not because I have some enormous wealth of knowledge about sales and how it works. I did work in sales for a bit, but I see it more because, the lessons of how you can deal with rude customers in sales applies to so many things. I do think sales is great. It just teaches you so much about life. Um, and I think this is a good example of it. So, dealing with rude customers in sales. So, I'll take it in isolation of just rude customers in sales. But if you don't work in sales, or you're not really interested in that, just see how this applies to the rest of your life, because it is quite profound. So, to get into the specifics, obviously sales is a difficult industry, mainly because you're constantly invading people's space um, to get them interested in your product. Whether that's at their door, in their office, on the street. You you do have to break down a barrier to get there, and that can make people very uncomfortable, and it can cause them to be short and rude to you. And as human beings, we're herd animals, we're pack animals. We don't like it when people are rude to us, and when we get hundreds of people a day being rude to us, that is really quite a bad feeling, quite a nasty feeling. And it's very hard to contend with. And I remember when I worked in sales, and I had these customers, but they weren't even that rude, but they were just awkward, and it just annoyed me. They just come to the door, and you just see them kind of freeze up. And it was a charity. I was working for a charity, so they didn't want to say no outright, but they give you a bunch of lame excuses. And I walked away from the door, and I just thought, when I have someone come to my door, I'm not gonna be like that. I'm not gonna be rude like that. But it's funny because I work in an office now, and I take calls as part of my job, and you get quite a lot of salespeople ring up, and I react the exact same way that most of these people did in the doors. I'm caught off guard. I sort of tense up. I'm a bit awkward. And I sort of don't really want to say no because it's rude, but I'm still not very polite. And I basically just try and fob them off as soon as possible. And it's quite humbling realizing that I'm just no different from anyone else in that regard. And I just accepted that this is how people react to salespeople. You can't really find a way out of it. If you're gonna go into someone's space, whether that's office or at home or on the street, there is gonna be a negative reaction for people who don't want to get engaged. And there's not much you can really do about that, and you shouldn't necessarily do anything about it. And we'll get a bit more into that later, but I think the heart of the issue really is that, the way, customers being rude and stuff, you can't really stop that from happening because it's so natural for people to react that way if they are in a environment where they're being sold to. And so, you shouldn't really aim to stop it. But that's just as well because I don't think it's really the heart of the problem anyway. So do this thought experiment on yourself. So would you rather have a day where you have lots of rude customers, but you make lots of sales? Or would you rather have no rude customers, but no sales? Now, in a sense, they're probably still quite good days. I had days where I made no money, but I met lots of nice people who were really friendly to me. But, you know, and it's a nice feeling, you know, to make some good friends while you're out selling. But really, it doesn't, you know, wasn't like my best day, you know, while selling. My best day was when I did four sales in a day, and I'm sure I had a lot of rude customers in there, but it didn't matter because I did something incredible that day. You know, those times that I did it, and so that's what I realised is it's not really the problem that people are rude to you. Like, of course, it'd be nice if everyone was nice to you, but the real heart of the issue is you're not selling enough, and the people being rude to you is just kind of an insult to injury. And rather than try and solve the people being rude to you, just solve the selling. Because if you sell more, you just don't give a shit about if people are rude to you or not. So that's the one thing that I'll say. And it's funny because before I left this job, I spent quite a lot of time trying to really work out like what the best people in the company were doing, and I managed to shadow this one guy, who was at the time about to open up like a new office, and this guy was like a sort of very charismatic Italian guy. He's sort of, you know, bit older. He was in his 40s. You know, very good looking, looked after himself very well. Had that sort of European sort of charm to him. And I remember watching him on the doors, and it was in February, so it was absolutely freezing. Like it was just too cold to go out. Basically, like it was like being in Russia or something. Like it was that kind of time of the year where it was just unbearable. But I just watched him on the doors for like an hour, and the way he interacted with people was incredible because he just got no bad reactions. Like, he didn't get any sales while I was there, but every person he talked to was just extremely receptive to him. And that did make me think. And what I realised is a lot of the anxious energy that people give you on the doors when they're a bit rude is really hard pill to swallow, but a lot of that just comes from your own anxious energy. And it's just kind of a reflection of yourself. But this guy, he'd just go up to the door and he'd just be like, "Oh, hello sir, good morning, happy new year," you know, and there was just something about how he did it that just people loved him, you know. And so I think I know I said earlier that people are just naturally going to be rude to you or whatever, but I think there is something to, you know, you do have to realise there's something in yourself that you're doing that's setting that off. And so, while it's still not the primary focus to get rid of rude people, I do think that it is something to do with you, and you can improve that as well. And this guy was obviously a very successful door-to-door salesman as well, so you know, there's clearly something to it. But that's it for today, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and see you in the next one.